revealed. The billionaire overheard the maid's touching wish for a Christmas meal with her son. Sarah stood beneath the shimmering grandeur of the chandelier, a surreal silence filling the opulent room she meticulously tended. Dust particles floated like carefree thoughts, far removed from her daily realities. Yet her mind was not on her work, but on Leo, her young son who lived tucked away in a modest apartment several miles from the mansion. Every Christmas brought a hollow wave of longing. Her heart ached for simple moments. A warm meal, laughter ringing through their home, the shimmering of lights on their tiny tree. Moments she could never afford. Just once, she whispered to herself, wiping away the unfamiliar streaks of pain. I wish we could all gather around the table together. She knew better than to voice such hopes in a place where dreams were measured against wealth. But in the unguarded moment, she'd confided her secret to Maria, another maid, while arranging the dining room's extravagant place settings. A soft chuckle from Maria was all the reply she received. You know they don't invite people like us to their parties, Maria said, masking her own wistfulness. Sarah felt a weight grow heavier in her chest, not just for her wish, but for the life and laughter that seemed forever out of reach. As the two of them giggled nervously about sharing desserts with billionaire Mr. Blackwood, a nearby echo stirred. Mr. Blackwood himself strolled past, a sharpness in his expression, almost thunderstruck by the vulnerability in Sarah's voice. He'd lived a life filled with celebration, yet in that moment, he reflected on his own desolation, haunted by the echoes of galas devoid of true connection. There was something starkly revealing about the contrast between them, one cradled with affluence, the other grasping for moments of warmth and basic joys. With November's chill creeping under the doors, Mr. Blackwood wrestled with an idea that seemed preposterous to his elite friends, an invitation for Sarah and her family to Christmas dinner. His friends, a cavalcade of society's upper crust, were aghast. You can't drag them into our world. What will people think? They warned him, words layered with disdain. He felt the tight coils of their judgment as if they were tightening around his throat, stifling the impulse that insisted he do something meaningful. Meanwhile, Sarah felt a tug of hope and dread. The thought of celebrating with Leo filled her with irresistible warmth, but it also gnawed at every fiber of her being. What would that dinner look like? The laughter of strangers mingling with her family's shyness, the judgment she sensed radiating from the grandeur while her heart stuttered between longing and numbness. She could picture the opulent decorations, the polished dishes, yet would they hold her son's laughter at the core? Just as she began to contemplate the invitation blooming in the hush of winter's air, her inner turmoil buried deeper. Would they see her as a genuine guest or merely an oddity? Would her family be accepted, or would they feel swallowed by the distance of wealth and circumstance? As days unfurled, the tension mounted like a thick fog. Each day felt like an impending storm. She felt too exposed, too vulnerable to be anything but grateful for the chance, yet terrified of what it meant for her worth. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Christmas loomed at the threshold. Would Sarah step through, holding on to her son's hand amid the laughing crowd at Mr. Blackwood's table? Or would she retreat, clinging to the familiar safety of their humble apartment, where the heartache was shared and bold yet fragile? Uncertainty radiated around her like the flicker of the chandelier overhead, leaving her, just like Mr. Blackwood, on the precipice between two worlds, each pulse of hope tangled in the fear of exposing her heart. The morning sun crept lazily through the lace curtains of Sarah's small apartment, illuminating the weary outlines of the living room. The space felt much colder than it should have, Its chilled, uninviting atmosphere mirrored the conflict knotting in Sarah's gut. She stirred beside Leo, still sleeping soundly, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beyond their modest walls. Today, she would receive the invitation, and with it, a fork in the road of her life. She could imagine Mr. Blackwood's voice, rich with sincerity, breaking the barrier of her fears. "I would like you and your son to join me for Christmas dinner." Such warmth emanating from a world she had always viewed from afar. Would it embrace them, or would it cast them aside? Ironically, the prospect of a lavish dinner weighed heavily on her. What if they found her unwanted? What if her son's laughter felt out of place amid the din of sophistication and wealth? Each thought scraped against her interior fears, cautioning her against intrusion into a sphere that felt foreign and unattainable. Yet, as she prepared breakfast, Leo's laughter echoed through the small apartment, pulling her back to what truly mattered. She watched him munch joyfully on toast, and the purity of his happiness illuminated the shadows looming in her mind. For Leo's sake, she couldn't succumb to her doubts. This moment offered not just a chance for a meal, but a lesson in courage, resilience, and faith in oneself. Can you imagine, Leo? A table full of real food, maybe even desserts. Sarah attempted to coax enthusiasm into her voice as she placed a tenderly prepared dish before him. Leo's eyes sparkled at the mention of sweets. That magic twinkled within them. In his adoration of the world around him, she found a sliver of her former self, the adventurous girl who had dared to dream about what lay beyond the confines of their apartment. Later that day, a knock on the door shattered her budding confidence. Mr. Blackwood stood on her threshold, his imposing figure swallowed by the apartment's simplicity. An array of emotions washed over him as he took in the small space, a stark contrast to the extravagant setting he inhabited. The warmth of her neighborhood and the innocence of Leo's laughter echoed in his ears, reminding him of a life he'd long overlooked in pursuit of success. "Sarah," he began, his voice a mixture of bravado and uncertainty. "I accept," she interrupted, breathless yet resolute. The instant decision electrified the air between them. The apprehension of the invitation and the weight of potential judgment vanished, momentarily replaced by a swell of empowerment. It was freeing to choose for Leo, for herself, and for something that felt like hope tangled in a heavier reality. "Yes, I'll come with Leo," she declared, flinching at the quiver in her voice but grounding herself by holding firm to her choice. She watched as his face lit up with a blend of relief and elation, astonished by her boldness. Once the door closed behind him, Sarah leaned against it, her heart racing. Could she navigate this new world, this mingling of classes that felt tentatively arranged around her? What complexities awaited them at the dinner table? Suddenly, the opportunity to embrace this unknown journey raced through her like electrifying conviction. Yet amid her excitement of newfound resolve, she wondered, was she prepared for the judgment they might face? In striving to breach societal divides, would she lose the very essence of their bond? As the day turned into night, burdened with questions of acceptance and belonging, she felt her conviction both buoyed and tested. In the tangled journey of self-discovery towards Christmas, the stakes grew higher. She was not just stepping outside her comfort, but venturing into uncharted territory where class barriers might rise, presenting unforeseen challenges. Sarah caught her reflection in the hallway mirror, noticing a fierce determination framing her features. With that glimmer in her eye, she set her path toward Mr. Blackwood's mansion, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Little did she know, the night would not just test her strength, but unravel layers of her character she had long buried. The table would set not just for a meal, but for confrontation. The moment had come to face the most daunting conflict yet, the quest for acceptance in a world that felt both dazzlingly bright and intimidatingly vast. With her son's hand in hers, Sarah took a deep breath, standing on the threshold of possibilities. As they approached the mansion, Sarah couldn't shake the instinct that this was only the beginning of a much larger metamorphosis unfolding in her life. As Sarah stepped into the expansive foyer of Mr. Blackwood's mansion, the sheer opulence enveloped her like a tidal wave. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs, urging her to retreat. Marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of chandeliers, their light refracting off the polished surfaces, casting intricate patterns that played across the walls. The air was perfumed with a richness that was equal parts inviting and intimidating. Leo, sensing her unease, squeezed her hand, his small fingers igniting a flicker of comfort within her. "Wow, Mom. Look at all the sparkles." His voice, filled with innocent wonder, broke the spell of intimidation that threatened to suffocate her. "Just stay close to me, okay?" she whispered back, composing herself as they advanced deeper into the house. The party was already in full swing, laughter and clinking glasses filtering through the air. Sarah caught sight of elegantly dressed guests mingling, their animated conversations punctuated by bouts of laughter that echoed like beautiful music. Yet, amidst the festivities, a thread of insecurity twisted through her gut. What place did she and Leo occupy in such a world? A familiar figure approached, cutting through her thoughts. Mr. Blackwood, with a charisma that filled the room, emerged with a glass of red wine in hand. "Sarah, I'm glad you could make it." His smile was warm, a stark contrast to the chilly air of her apprehensions. "Thank you for inviting us," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She noticed how his gaze softened upon Leo, a genuine fondness in his expression that sparked a flicker of hope. "Leo, how's my favorite little guy?" he exclaimed, bending down to meet Leo's wide eyes. The boy beamed back, entirely unfazed by the grandeur surrounding him. As Mr. Blackwood engaged Leo in conversation, Sarah couldn't help but observe the easy rapport between them. Her heart swelled with gratitude. Leo was thriving in this environment, his curiosity unquenchable. Yet, a nagging thought lingered. Could she truly belong here? The evening unfolded, and Sarah's senses sharpened. Conversations flowed effortlessly among guests, discussing art, business mergers, and global affairs, topics that felt entirely foreign to her. She sipped on her drink, searching for grounding in the whirlwind of opulence. For every laugh she fostered, doubt prickled just beneath the surface. Then came the moment that would shift the trajectory of the night. As guests began migrating to the dining room, Sarah overheard snippets of conversation. Two women discussing children's education and the pressures of elite schooling. One voice, smooth and mocking, sneered, "Imagine someone from that part of town thinking they could belong here. It's laughable." Her stomach twisted. Was she truly seen as an outsider? They didn't know her story. They didn't understand the sacrifices she'd made, or the love she poured into raising Leo. Fueled by a sudden surge of defiance, Sarah recalled her purpose for being here. This wasn't merely about acceptance. It was about proving to herself that she could navigate a less familiar world, that she and Leo were not mere visitors, but participants in their own destiny. With a steely resolve, she walked into the dining room, the grand table set with fine china and flickering candles, a perfect homage to the season. She took her seat, determined to let her voice be heard, bracing for whatever judgments awaited. As the night wore on, the conversations flowed from formalities into laughter. Sarah began to contribute, sharing Leo's latest adventures with earnest humor. The warmth of their connecting stories gradually melted away her anxiety, wrapping her in a comfortable sense of belonging, until the moment their eyes danced over to the group whispering derisively. It was then that Mr. Blackwood stood, toasting to family, and unexpectedly directing his warmth toward Sarah. "And to the brave hearts who remind us what truly matters at gatherings like this. Sometimes it's not just about the food, but the connections we forge, crossing the boundaries we think divide us." As she glared back at the two women who had smirked, she felt a palpable shift in energy. This was her moment, an opportunity to assert her presence among them, not just as a guest, but as a part of this tapestry of lives. But just as she lifted her glass to clink against Leo's, she spotted Mr. Blackwood's expression shift. Confusion flickered in his eyes, followed by something deeper, hinting at uncharted complexity beneath the surface of their interactions. In that fleeting moment, the stakes rose higher, intertwining her potential growth with the weight of others' perceptions. The dinner had become more than a meal. It was a crucible that would either forge newfound connections or fracture under the pressure of disdain. As Sarah surveyed the room, determination coursing through her, she realized this was only the beginning of understanding her worth. What complications lay hidden beneath the elaborate decor and polished conversation? Would she find the courage to confront not just the judgments of the women but also her insecurities wrapped up in this new reality? The night held promises of revelations waiting to unfold, as both Sarah and Leo prepared to navigate paths that might lead them into greater self-discovery or unexpected confrontations. Sarah's heart pounded as Mr. Blackwood's gaze flickered toward her, igniting a flurry of possibilities in her mind. His unexpected toast had shattered her earlier discomfort, but now it left her with a curious weight. The air was thick with unspoken challenges, and she could sense the eyes of the party fixated on her. Taking a breath, she steeled herself to shift the focus away from the undercurrents of judgment. She gently squeezed Leo's hand, reminding herself of his innocence, his joy, a grounding force in this world filled with judgment. With renewed resolve, she recalled her purpose, not just to exist in this lofty environment, but to thrive in it alongside her son, who deserved every ounce of opportunity and love. "I couldn't agree more," Sarah responded, her voice cutting through the layered tension. "Connections are everything, especially when raising a child. It's about building a community." The words flowed from her mouth as if rehearsed, each syllable crafted from the depths of her experience. She watched as the group shifted slightly, a few intrigued expressions catching her eye. Bringing more of Leo into her narrative had become her secret weapon. "Just the other day, Leo asked me how stars are made. We spent hours crafting little theories. That's the joy of being a parent, right? To explore everything through a child's eyes." A few chuckles erupted, and Mr. Blackwood nodded thoughtfully, seemingly pensive about her take on parenting. But then her confidence faltered slightly under the gaze of the two women who had derided her. Were they rolling their eyes? The moment felt like a lure back to insecurity, triggering memories of dismissiveness from peers in her past. What if they saw her attempts as comical or naive? Yet, with a deeper breath, she remembered Leo's fascination with the cosmos, its vastness holding endless stories, and forged ahead. With a flicker of determination, she leaned into Mr. Blackwood's enthusiasm. "You know," she said, "sometimes the hardest part about being a single parent is facing these gatherings alone. Each time I step into a world like this, I feel like I'm crossing into a different universe. But it's also a reminder to show Leo that we can achieve anything." The well-mannered applause and murmurs of appreciation from the guests were enough to whisper hope back into her heart. That defiant spark flared again as she felt the weight of judgment lift incrementally. She exchanged a glance with Mr. Blackwood, who offered her a brief nod, acknowledging her strength, perhaps even her authenticity. Yet, as the dinner progressed, Sarah's mind raced. An unsettling thought emerged. She was momentarily lauded not only as a mother, but for her bravery, and yet beneath that facade, she struggled with her own fears. What of her professional ambitions? The landscape of belonging extended beyond this night. It seeped into every corner of her life. How could she pursue dreams while battling perceptions molded by others? The questions circled like predatory birds, eager for opportunity. Would she have the courage to face her ambitions with the same resolve she'd shown tonight? As dessert was served, her heart quickened again at the thought of Mr. Blackwood personally introducing her to more influential attendees. This felt monumental, an opening she desperately craved. Still, buried within that excitement was the gnawing question of whether she was ready to fully seize it, to connect beyond pleasantries, to showcase her professional skills. "Sarah, would you join me for a moment?" Mr. Blackwood's voice beckoned, snapping Sarah from her musings. He gestured toward a quieter corner of the dining room, far removed from the heady chatter. Sweat pricked her palms. An opportunity lay before her, but so did the uncertainty of expectations. What was he about to discuss? As Sarah stood, her heart thudded, twining anticipation with fear. Would this conversation fortify her position, offering a bridge into another realm of possibility? Or would it betray her limitations, redefining her narrative once again? The room faded into the background as she stepped forward, the weight of the night riding on her shoulders. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. Would she emerge empowered or eclipsed? Answers waited just beyond the threshold, shrouded in the conversation that loomed ahead. As she stepped closer to Mr. Blackwood, she could feel her resolve battling against doubt. Ready or not, this was the moment she had been preparing for. What would she unveil about herself in the coming conversation, and would it ever alter her relationship with the world she was striving to belong to? As Sarah approached Mr. Blackwood, the atmosphere shifted, transforming from the vibrant buzz of the party into a personal arena of vulnerability and potential. He smiled, a gesture that seemed warm yet layered with expectation. Her mind raced, concocting a plethora of scenarios from bold ambition to vulnerable revelation, each possibility tinged with trepidation. "Thank you for stepping away with me, Sarah," he began, his deep voice resonating with authority. "What you shared tonight about parenting was refreshing and honest. It's rare to find someone who can so seamlessly intertwine personal and professional narratives." The compliment wrapped around her like a warm blanket, but it was its inherent weight that held her steady. Admiration mingled with pressure rippled in her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood," she managed, her instinct to deflect the focus off herself still strong. It was a reflection of my journey as a parent. But the need to reinforce her professional identity surged. "I'm also passionate about my work in design. Connecting with others is essential, both in life and in my career." He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Design? I didn't realize that. What part do you play in that field?" At that moment, Sarah felt as if the eyes from the party returned, surrounding her with their judgmental glances. Would they see her worth? Or would she be dismissed as merely a mother playing at a profession? A flicker of hesitation washed over her. She took a breath, pushing away the doubts that threatened to surface. "I specialize in sustainable designs," she explained, her voice gaining strength. "I've focused on creating spaces that are not only functional, but also reflect an appreciation for the environment. It's my way of contributing a narrative to the world and showing Leo that every small act matters." The enthusiasm began to rise in her voice as she recalled her recent projects, the way they inspired conversation and ignited dreams in those who occupied them. "Impressive," Mr. Blackwood commented, his interest evident. "Sustainability is a hot topic right now, but it requires a depth of understanding to implement it properly. Perhaps we could explore potential collaborations. There are avenues in my companies that align with that vision." A rush of excitement coursed through her veins. The opportunity danced tantalizingly close, casting aside the insecurity that clouded her mind moments earlier. "I'd love that, really. I believe our environment can transform how people interact with spaces and each other." "But," he interjected, his tone shifting subtly, "can you handle the expectations that come with that? This isn't just about passion, it's about results. You'd need to balance your vision with the practicality of the business world." The piercing question hung in the air, and Sarah felt the cavernous space between where she stood and the world Mr. Blackwood inhabited. Could she? A knot formed in her stomach. The looming reality checked her enthusiasm for a moment, forcing her to confront her self-doubt. "I am ready to face whatever challenges come my way," Sarah asserted, summoning her inner conviction. "Every moment I spent learning, growing, and navigating the hardships of parenthood has prepared me to take on professional challenges too." Mr. Blackwood's gaze softened, as if he could see beyond her fears. "Good. I believe in potential, and I see it in you. Remember, every step into the unknown requires fearlessness. Be prepared to push back when you feel doubts encroaching. His words, laced with authority, ignited a flicker of determination within her. She had spent a lifetime proving herself to others. Now, she was geared to do the same on her terms, for herself and for Leo. The conversation opened doors she had only imagined, an awakening of ambition and empowerment coursing through her like electricity. But with it, the shadow of self-doubt remained, lurking in the fringes of her consciousness, reminding her that vulnerability was still there, a potential obstacle layered with both fear and embrace. As their conversation began to wind down, a sense of clarity settled within her. This was her moment. What lay ahead required more than passion. It demanded relentless courage and an undeterred spirit. Let's explore those avenues, Mr. Blackwood. I'm ready to embrace the challenges. So it begins, he replied, with a knowing smile. But there's something more you need to be aware of before we proceed. Her pulse quickened at his words. What was it? What revelation awaited? One that could either solidify her burgeoning path or shake its foundations. She leaned in closer, uncertainty and anticipation twirling within her. Trust was crucial, but the stakes were rising. Where this conversation led could reshape everything she thought she understood about her journey. Mr. Blackwood leaned back slightly, his expression turning serious. For a moment, Sarah held her breath, caught in a swell of anticipation. He cleared his throat, and Sarah felt the weight of her heart pounding in her chest, a metronome marking the beat of her unfolding destiny. You need to understand that in this industry, everything is layered, he said, his voice low and deliberate. There are perspectives and pressures that go beyond just creative vision. There are certain politics involved. A rush of unease swept through her. Politics. Her mind conjured images of boardrooms filled with cold calculations, power plays, and individuals prioritizing their advancement over their work. Was she prepared to navigate such a landscape? I see, Sarah replied cautiously, pushing aside the gnawing doubts. But my designs speak for themselves. They're not just a product, they're a message. True, but messages can be misinterpreted. Sometimes the right message can be lost if the wrong people are holding the reins. People who only see dollars and cents, instead of the value of connection. His observation hung between them, a crystal-clear reflection of her worries. The thought of working under someone else's conditions, being beholden to their whims, made her stomach twist. She had fought tooth and nail to carve out her identity in both motherhood and her work. Could she allow herself to be boxed in again by someone else's vision, no matter how appealing the offer? Well then, how do I ensure my vision prevails? She asked, an edge creeping into her tone, asserting her resolve. If you're suggesting I may compromise, then I need to know how to navigate that without losing myself. Mr. Blackwood regarded her with a mix of respect and challenge. You forge alliances. You understand the motivations of those you're working with. And most importantly, you know when to stand firm. They need to see you as an asset above all else. When you can do that, they will advocate for you. His insights ignited a clarity. It was a dance of power, trust, and moral obligation that required acumen, not just artistic talent. Could she slip into that role? The notion terrified yet exhilarated her. Perhaps I could start by learning more about your company culture, she offered, a strategic move. Understanding what drives your team, what challenges they face. It might help me align my intentions with business outcomes. Mr. Blackwood smiled, a glimmer of approval igniting his gaze. I admire your initiative. Knowledge is indispensable. It can either empower or paralyze, and you should seek out opportunities to showcase your thought process to my team. They need to recognize you're not just a designer, but a leader. Consider it a starting point. Her heartbeat steadied as newfound clarity enveloped her. If she could begin building alliances while maintaining her integrity, she might just find a way to keep her vision intact and thrive. But then, a pang of fear shot through her again. A nagging worry that entered into her mind uninvited. Could she truly gather the confidence needed to lead? To assert herself among seasoned professionals who lived and breathed this world? "I'll need to prepare," she murmured, more to herself than to him. "Exposure to the team, an understanding of their dynamics. I don't want to come off as an imposter." He shook his head. No one can be an imposter if they're pursuing their passion. You have a unique perspective, and that's what sets you apart. Let that guide you. As they concluded this pivotal conversation, the undercurrents of their dialogue buzzed in her mind like a live wire. She was at the precipice of something transformative, yet that same exhilaration amplified her anxiety. The path unfurled before her, filled with both promise and peril. But the real question lingered in the air. Could she grasp it without losing what mattered most? Would she sacrifice parts of herself to succeed, or could she integrate her truth with her ambition? Sarah felt the shadows of doubt creeping closer again as the realization sunk in. She needed to confront the faceless adversaries of her own making. As Mr. Blackwood moved to leave, his departing smile was a beacon, yet an enigma, and he said, "The real test lies ahead. Are you ready to tackle it?" Each word reverberated in her mind, igniting an urgency beneath her resolve. The moment she stood against her fears, she could either embrace the entirety of herself or allow her aspirations to be buried under the weight of external expectations. And as the sparkle of opportunity shimmered before her, she could only wonder, was she truly prepared for what lay ahead, or would she collapse under the weight of ambition's promise? The following morning, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, the sun cutting through the frosted glass and casting shadows onto her notepad. A floral print surrounded her thoughts as abstract designs poured from her pen, but her mind was preoccupied with the challenges ahead. She felt the weight of Mr. Blackwood's words clinging to her like a second skin. Forge alliances. Stand firm. Each phrase echoed with urgency, pushing her into a realm of self-exploration she had yet to fully engage. With a cup of steaming coffee cradled in her hands, Sarah scrolled through her phone, seeking inspiration from industry leaders she admired. Each design she reviewed offered a glimpse into a personal narrative, a story told through fabric and form. But as she dove deeper, she began to compare herself. Could she ever achieve that level of clarity and confidence? She shoved the device aside, refreshing her mind with a determined shake of her head, reminding herself of who she was and what she stood for. Sarah's resolve was tested when she received an email inviting her to a brainstorming session with the team that Mr. Blackwood had mentioned. A blend of excitement and dread washed over her. It would be her first real opportunity to engage with other designers and showcase her perspective. What if they saw her as a novice? What if her ideas floundered? Clenching her jaw, she forced herself to breathe deeply. An imposter was the last thing she wanted to feel. She had spent years honing her craft, finding inspiration in the small moments of motherhood, the laughter of her son, and the simple beauty that surrounded her daily life. All of that would guide her. It was time to rise to the occasion. In the days leading up to the meeting, Sarah researched the other team members, read their past designs and opinions on various platforms. She wanted to understand their motivations and styles, hoping to find common ground. With this knowledge under her belt, she would enter the meeting prepared. Every piece of information added to the foundation of her strategy, building a semblance of confidence within. The day of the meeting arrived, and as Sarah dressed, she focused on wearing something that embodied her authentic self, a vibrant dress that reflected her creativity. Looking in the mirror, she whispered affirmations, reminding herself that she belonged there as much as anyone else. When she stepped out the door, it was her creativity she wore as armor, envisioning herself as a leader which was now beginning to feel less like a distant dream and more like a tangible goal. Upon arriving, Sarah was greeted by a flurry of personalities. The energy in the room crackled with chemistry and tension. Her pulse quickened, but she took note of who spoke the most, both skeptically and affirmatively. Each interaction fortified her earlier decision to reach out, to create bridges rather than walls. With every presentation, Sarah listened intently, analyzing the reactions to her peers' ideas. When it was her turn, she felt the stares of several sets of eyes on her. The room was a blend of anticipation and challenge. What if they don't get it? The thought pierced her focus momentarily, but then she channeled Mr. Blackwood's words. She had to advocate for her vision. Taking a deep breath, she spoke with clarity and conviction, framing her ideas not just as designs, but as opportunities for connection. Somehow, in that moment, she felt the walls she'd built around herself begin to dissolve. Responses shifted from beady skepticism to curiosity as she empathized with the emotions involved in her designs. As she connected deeper, flashing confident smiles and maintaining eye contact, perhaps she was indeed embodying a leader. When the meeting concluded, she felt different, completely alive, overwhelmed yet invigorated. It was as if a new lens had been placed over her perspective, blurring the lines of doubt while sharpening her sense of purpose. But the challenge remained stark in her mind. Could she truly maintain this? Would this be enough for her to push through the politics Mr. Blackwood had warned of? The real test lay ahead. As she exited the building, exhilarated, the shadows of uncertainty still loomed. Could she continue this momentum, or was she merely glimpsing her potential? Tension brewed within her, pulsating with questions that waited to be answered, as she sensed that the pivotal moment was quickly approaching. She had to face the opposition head-on, the unyielding voice in her mind that had always whispered doubts. The days that followed the meeting felt like a whirlpool of energy and trepidation for Sarah. She awoke with renewed determination each morning, but found herself ebbing back into cycles of doubt as the hours wore on. Each interaction with colleagues showcased a spectrum of skill levels and confidence, shining examples of what it meant to be truly engaged in the world of design. It haunted her. Navigating the delicate ecosystem of personalities in the studio wasn't just about showcasing her designs. It felt like an intricate dance of power and perception. The conversations often fanned the flames of her insecurities. Was her enthusiasm merely a thin veil covering a novice reality? Did her peers see her for who she truly was, or were they simply polite as they put up walls of preemptive judgment? One afternoon, while reviewing various design proposals, a sudden ping pulled her focus from the screen, an unexpected email from Mr. Blackwood asking for feedback on her contributions to the project. Panic coursed through her veins. His request felt like a double-edged sword. Did he genuinely seek her input, or was it a test to measure her competence? Pacing around her living room, Sarah considered her response. Part of her wanted to pour her heart into the message, sharing her thorough insights and innovative ideas. But an equally compelling voice whispered, "What if he thinks you're overstepping?" After grappling with her thoughts for what felt like an eternity, she settled in front of her laptop. Her fingers hovered above the keys, pregnant with hesitation. Each line she typed required careful consideration. This was not just an email. This was a moment that could solidify her position or jeopardize it entirely. Finally, she pressed send. Relief washed over her, leaving a lingering excitement. Immediately, she felt a spark of courage ignite within her, yet the thought of anticipating his response sent shivers down her spine. What if he dismissed her opinions as naive or uninformed? The next day, she was startled awake by the ping of a new email. Heart racing, she reached for her phone. Mr. Blackwood's response was concise, yet affirming, praising her insights, and encouraging her to articulate more of her design philosophy in their next team meeting. Ballooning exhilaration filled her as the imposter syndrome receded. This tiny interaction felt like a validation of her existence in the creative landscape she longed to inhabit. With renewed focus, Sarah approached the next brainstorming session with a more daring perspective. She scrutinized the brand's identity, identifying threads that needed to be rewoven. Moments before she began speaking, her hands trembled with both eagerness and fear. This was an opportunity to further express her vision, the vision that was slowly transcending from concept to realization. As she navigated through her thoughts, the room seemed to shrink around her, and she concentrated on grounding herself. She took a moment to absorb the diverse expressions of her peers, reflecting the weight of her innovations. With each point she made, she noticed a quiet shift. Their nods of understanding and burgeoning curiosity encouraged her to dig deeper into her rationale. But just as the atmosphere began to align with her ambitions, an unexpected challenge arose from Claire, a senior designer with an assertive presence. "That concept seems a little naive, don't you think? It could be seen as overly sentimental," she remarked. The words felt like an icy blade, slicing through the warmth Sarah had just begun to generate. In that moment, a battle raged within her. Should she defend her idea, risking conflict and the possibility of alienating Claire? Or should she retreat, succumbing to her insecurities and conceding defeat? The stakes had been raised, and the echoes of Mr. Blackwood's command surged through her. Forge alliances, stand firm. As she prepared to respond to Claire, internal doubts clashed with her newfound confidence. Should she blend her narrative with the practical considerations Claire presented, creating an opportunity for collaboration? Or should she fiercely protect her vision and perhaps risk further opposition from her peers? The moment had arrived for her to confront not just the professional challenge, but also the reflection of her inner uncertainties. Battling internal resistance, Sarah opened her mouth to speak, the room holding its breath in anticipation. The direction she chose would not only shape her project, but also define who she would become in this competitive arena. Would she have the strength to challenge assumptions while maintaining her integrity, or was she teetering on the edge of a personal breakdown? This question fueled her determination as she uncovered a crucial truth. The time had come to face her most formidable opponent, herself. The air in the room felt charged, an electric mix of expectation and uncertainty, as Sarah clutched the edges of her conference table. Claire's challenge loomed like a mountain, and she could feel her pulse echoing in her ears. Was her creation not worthy? Did it really carry the weight of a fleeting sentiment? Taking a deep breath, Sarah grounded herself with the memories of late nights spent in the studio, immersed in her passion, when the world outside had faded away. The colors, shapes, and emotions that danced at the tip of her tongue were not mere frivolities. They were the essence of what she believed in as a designer. "Naivety is often mistaken for sincerity," she began, sensing a collective shift in attention as she spoke her truth. Design, at its core, should evoke feelings. If we lose touch with that, we become just another cog in the machine, devoid of creativity. The resonance of her words reverberated in the room, creating a space for thought, contemplation, and dialogue. For a brief moment, Sarah's eyes locked with Mr. Blackwood's. His gaze was steady, urging her to continue. She felt a flicker of empowerment course through her, pushing her to stand her ground. Claire's critique had been valid, yet it presented an opportunity for deeper exploration rather than an outright rejection. "Perhaps we could explore ways to strengthen the concept," Claire responded, the edge of her voice softening slightly amidst the tension. "Sentiment can enrich our designs, but it has to be layered with depth, an angle that appeals practically too." Sarah nodded, acknowledging the input without conceding completely. "Absolutely. What if we incorporate elements that highlight both emotional resonance and practical application? We could bridge design with functionality." The room began to pulse with renewed energy, shedding the weight of conflict. Ideas floated and combined, sparking a vibrant discussion that crackled with possibility. Sarah realized she was indeed a part of something larger, a collaborative effort rather than a solitary path. As the brainstorming session unfolded, her heart warmed again with the camaraderie blooming among her colleagues. The cycle of doubt began to break apart, fractured by the realization that her vulnerability could be a strength. The room was alive with ideas, merging perspectives and unraveling a tapestry of creative solutions. After the meeting, Sarah felt buoyant. Yet, beneath that exhilaration lay an echo of nagging self-reflection. Had she truly shifted the others' perceptions of her? Or was her bravado simply a facade for her continued insecurities? She wrestled internally, considering her journey thus far. Each small victory was a step toward something greater, yet the fear of regression shadowed her every move. How could she solidify her newfound presence amidst such formidable peers? That evening, Sarah decided to take action. She drafted a proposal for the project's further development, pouring ideas into her notes that merged sentimentality with vital design function. Each concept fueled her ambition, igniting a determination to delve deeper into her creative abilities. But as the days turned into weeks, the pressure mounted. She sensed a looming deadline within the studio that catalyzed a new wave of anxiety. The sense of camaraderie slowly began to feel like potential rivalry, as Claire's comments became sharper and others followed suit. Doubts resurfaced, and with them came the fear of inadequacy. One afternoon, Sarah noticed Claire hunched over a table, sketching fiercely, her face a mask of focused determination. An idea sparked in Sarah's mind. Is competition creeping back into the fabric of their collaborative environment? Or was there an opportunity to unify their visions, understanding that they could elevate the project together rather than at each other's expense? Sarah felt the pull of two paths: to confront Claire directly and foster a partnership that could amplify both their visions, or to cower behind her designs, protecting them from potential critique. The question became clear. How could she harness this new dynamic into a force for collective growth, rather than individual isolation? The time for personal realization had arrived, and she would need to confront her fears head-on. As she considered her next move, Sarah felt the undercurrent of dread and exhilaration coalesce. She was, once again, at the precipice of change. Would she take the risk to evolve alongside her peers, challenging not only her own limits, but also the robust dynamics of collaboration? A sudden determination washed over her. This was not just about design anymore. It was about redefining who she was becoming within this creative whirlpool. How would she take those first crucial steps toward transformation? Or would she let fear once again dictate her path? As dawn broke, Sarah stood resolutely in front of her kitchen mirror, the last remnants of hesitation washing away. She had endured enough. This was the moment to confront the rising tide of potential that flooded her new world. No longer would she cower beneath the weight of self-doubt. She was ready to step into her power and fully embrace the talents she had cultivated. After days of contemplation, she devised a plan. There was power in vulnerability, and she recognized that confronting Claire openly might cultivate an alliance rather than a divide. Strengthen rather than shy away. She crafted a message, asking Claire to meet over coffee to discuss their ideas and visions. Once sent, the weight of anticipation settled on her shoulders, energizing her resolve. As they sat across from each other, the coffee shop hum reverberated through the air. Sarah felt the tension in the room. Claire's demeanor was guarded, yet there was a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. With steady breath, Sarah took the plunge, diving into her thoughts about collaboration. I admire your approach, Claire. There's a depth to your designs that I think could really enhance our project. I'd like to combine our strengths. Claire raised an eyebrow, skepticism evident, yet Sarah pressed on. I've seen how your insight can add layers of complexity, and my aesthetics can complement that. Let's build something memorable together. To her surprise, Claire's initial reticence gave way to intrigue. They began exchanging ideas, the air between them gradually thickening with creativity. With every concept shared, Sarah felt her confidence grounded in practicality. Here was a bridge connecting them, not an obstacle. The prospect of collaboration brought forth an unexpected relief, transforming Sarah's perception of herself as a novice into a critical contributor in their shared journey. Days turned to weeks as they worked closely, blending their visions into a cohesive design that resonated more deeply than either had anticipated. Their partnership flourished, filling the studio with fresh energy, and as project milestones passed, Sarah observed blooming respect from their peers. The weight of Claire's previous criticisms dulled, replaced by an acknowledgement of their collective success. Sarah was no longer just a mother dabbling in design. She was a force of creativity driving innovation forward. As the project prepared for its showcase, Sarah stood poised before the crowd, nerves fluttering like wings in her stomach. This would not only highlight their combined work, but also mark her journey from vulnerability to visibility. She had built lasting connections. Now she was ready for the world to see her worth tangibly. The presentation was met with applause and acclaim. The intricacies of design showcased had successfully captured the imagination of industry leaders. Mr. Blackwood's presence in the audience reflected the weight of validation, his nod of approval grounding her in the moment. Each word that flowed from her lips felt like a testament to her journey, pain, growth, and ultimately success. Once the applause subsided, Mr. Blackwood approached Sarah, his expression mirroring pride. "You have evolved immensely, Sarah. It's clear your voice is now recognized within our community. You've proven that success lies in collaboration," he stated, admiration lacing his tone. This tangible recognition felt transformative. It affirmed her worth and solidified her newfound confidence. Sarah realized she had not only found her place within this landscape, but had also carved out an identity that was uniquely her own. The fear that had once gripped her began to dissipate, replaced by a steadfast sense of belonging. The final act of the evening came when Mr. Blackwood offered her a position in a leadership role for the next project. "Your vision deserves a platform. Let's leverage this success toward something even greater." The air thickened with mixed emotions. Excitement surged through her, intermingled with the realization of the challenge ahead. Could she continue to embrace her newfound identity while nurturing Leo's path? Could she balance motherhood with career ambitions without compromising who she was? With resolute clarity, she accepted. "Yes, I'd love to take this opportunity. Together we'll make something extraordinary." As Sarah walked away from the event that evening, her heart swelled, each step forward marked by tangible growth. She had traversed a journey not just defined by design, but by an evolution of self, from vulnerability to strength, from doubt to achievement. Her reflections on the path taken became intertwined with Leo's laughter as she envisioned their shared future. Together they would navigate life's complexities, imbibing each other's strengths, fueling their ambitions with hope, and creating a story that echoed resilience. For Sarah, this journey solidified a new beginning where both her personal and professional lives could flourish, where once solitary paths entwined to lead her to a life of profound meaning. This was not just fulfillment. It was recognition of the power born from adversity, resulting in the victory that she had long sought. Now take a moment. If you've been inspired by this story of transformation and empowerment, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You can make a difference with your support. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. Share the insights this story sparked within you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible conclusion. Your engagement fuels this community of personal growth.